Things are very confusing in Kenya today, yeah? And I have news for you. Bado sana. Or shall I say nabado, yeah? What that means is there's still much more confusion to come, okay? Now, some of us have been forced to start reading law very seriously. Some Kenyans have become lawyers, yeah? Very, very seasoned lawyers, yeah, in a very short space of time. Not qualified, but very authoritative in what they say and do. Gosh, it is going to get confusing. Now, in this recording, I'm going to try my best to bring some clarity to all that is happening in Kenya right now, so that we all understand what is happening. Because the truth is, most of us are starting to get very tired and dizzy. Yeah, when you start hearing, oh, you know, the High Court passed this, or you know, the Supreme Court this, the High Court that, yeah, jurisprudence, blah blah blah, legal terms, you start getting very confused. So in this recording, we're going to try our best to bring clarity to this whole situation, so that we understand exactly what is going on, and even more important, where we are going. Now, maybe it's a good idea to start with where we are. Yeah, and don't worry, I'm not going to the usual story of this guy did that, blah, blah, blah. I'll just put it very simply. What is happening is that we have a government that is making the kind of decisions that some of us were making in lower primary school. And that is why I keep on asking, and recently I've seen in the newspapers an increasing number of people asking, who advises Jubilee? Who advises the Jubilee government? Yeah, people have been asking that question. And Simatusi, and it's not without reason people asking that, yeah? Now, let me tell you what I mean by lower primary school decisions, okay? Now, I remember when we were in lower primary school, there's this guy who was a bully, okay? So, we sat down and we decided we're going to fix him. So, we waited, it was of course a day school, we waited until home time. And then we waylaid this guy and we gave him a thorough beating, okay? Now, that was not a good decision. And I'm not talking about fighting not being good, yeah? It was not a good decision in that we did not think through the consequences, yes? So what happened is that this bully, all he did is that he regrouped, yes? And the next day, I think after a day or two, he also waylaid us and did the same. So the thing just went on and on and on and on. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is that every decision somebody makes, especially at such a high level as government, one needs to think through the consequences. Yes, I will fix so and so. Okay, fine, you'll fix him. And then after that, he'll have nowhere to go. Then after that, you see, you think through. Because when somebody has nowhere else to go, they'll find a way to react. You have to think through the whole thing. So what is happening? We're getting decisions which people are not thinking through. Okay? Now let me put this, let me now apply it to our situation today. After the Supreme Court ruling of 1st September, which annulled President Uhuru Kenyatta's alleged win, yeah, how did Jubilee behave? How did the government behave? Okay? The government was on the warpath. Okay? And something else, more importantly, for our situation today, the government and IEBC became co-joint twins more than ever before. Yes? So we had a situation whereby the government releases a statement in the morning. In the afternoon, Jubilee releases a statement in the morning. In the afternoon, the IEBC echoes the same statement and passes a ruling based on that statement of Jubilee. For instance, Matiang'i came out and said that, oh, we need the elections to be held on 17th because of school exams. A few hours later, IEBC say the election shall be held on the 17th of October. You see what I mean? And there are so many other examples. Okay? Number two, you find that what happened going forward is that it became very obvious that before IEBC could make any decision, when they're saying, oh, we're consulting our legal team, actually they were consulting Jubilee. Okay? Of course, this was happening before. It didn't start after 1st September ruling. It happened before. and this way the election was annulled. So one would think that after September 1st, things would change so as to bring a different result. They did not change. So that's what I'm talking about, thinking through your decisions. So what did Jubilee expect? Did Jubilee expect that NASA were going just to sit still, you know, that Raila Odinga was going to behave like a lamb, a stupid, silly lamb, which walks into slaughter well with the eyes wide open, which walks into a trap with the eyes open? Is that what the Jubilee government expected? Yeah, because it would stand to reason, yeah, that if you know, and it should be very clear, I think it should be very clear to every Kenyan, that the plan of this rerun or these fresh elections, yeah, the plan of these fresh elections that the Supreme Court ordered, the plan was to rig it again. Yes, because you keep your old suppliers, you insist on keeping your same old suppliers, you insist on keeping certain people in office, etc., etc. What does that mean? It means that you plan season 2 of the same thing. Okay? Now, let me just give you a very clear example so that you understand that what I'm saying is true and it is accurate. If I was Jubilee, okay, I plan to rig the election, okay? What I'd do is that I would make sure that the IEBC looks as independent as possible. And I would make my plan for rigging as divorced as possible from the IEBC. Okay? So after the ruling, yes, the opposition NASA would be convinced that we're going to have a free and fair election. That's what I'd do. Okay? And then what would happen is that, NASA come to IEBC and ask for something, wanapewa. They come to IEBC and ask for something, wanapewa. So as to give the impression that the IEBC has changed, yeah, and that it is for a free and fair election, etc., etc., yeah. And then when all this is going on, when everybody's attention is diverted and everybody is so happy that the IEBC are now independent and free, I would do my things behind the scenes. And then after that election, nobody will sit and everybody now will even get tired of Raila and NASA, and they'll say, "Aye, these people are just bothering the government for nothing." It is true Uhuru won the first election because he has won the second one, and IEBC were different, they were behaving differently, etc., etc. That is what I'd have done. Indeed, that's what Moi used to do. He used to plan ahead very carefully. Yes? And he used to think through all his decisions. He used to know that if I do this, the opposition will do that. And therefore, that is not a good decision. So I should go this way, because if the opposition do this, I will be able to do that. You see, you think the whole thing through. Okay? Now, I'm sorry. I know most of you are shocked, but it's politics and it's power. Yeah? And people do rig elections, not only in Kenya, in other places. Yeah? So I'm just being realistic. That's what I should have done. But what did the Jubilee government do instead? They made it so obvious. In fact, it looks like it's a petty primary school thing. Yeah? Those NASA guys hatutaki maneno yao. Wakikuja IEBC, no. Don't accept anything from those NASA guys. Because it was very obvious. If Jubilee wanted something, the IEBC was in fact the IEBC really is just a department of Jubilee. I agree with those people call it the Jubilee Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Yeah? JEBC, not IEBC. Yeah? I agree with those people. And you should agree with me because it's obvious. Look at what has been happening. Look at what has been happening. It is obvious. Yeah? I'll give you another even more obvious example. Yeah? After the elections, the Jubilee government goes haywire concerning the Supreme Court. Yeah? They attack the Supreme Court left, right, and center. Wakora, blah, blah, blah. We shall revisit what. Now, how will that affect Jubilee and their presidential candidate in case after the election we're going into, the matter goes to the Supreme Court? He'll be facing the same judges, the same Supreme Court judges that they abused, they insulted, they attacked. Yes? So that's what I mean by thinking through decisions. And Kenya is where it is today, when the crisis we're in, because this government of ours did not think through their decisions. And even as we go forward, they continue to behave in the same way. So in my view, where we are headed is not a nice place. And you'd understand if I would tell you, these are the times when I miss Moi. Yeah, former President Daniel Arap Moi. Believe it or not, even with these draconian things, even with his very dictatorial rule, yeah, at least he used to think through his decisions, yeah, for the good of the nation. Because at the end of the day, who suffers most? Yeah, in all this circus, who suffers the most is the ordinary Kenyan. Okay, now we'll take a quick short break, and then when we come back, I'll answer the burning question that I've been getting from very many of you. Yeah, what happens if an election is actually held on the 26th minus NASA? Yeah, see you shortly. Welcome back. Now, the more you make decisions which you do not think through, the more you'll find yourself in a situation where you're where things are out of control, where things are beyond your control, and the more you find yourself in situations whereby you really have no options. Yeah, you run out of options. That is what happens in life. Yeah, anywhere. Yeah, let alone at the highest level, even in an individual level, that's what happens. And that is where the Jubilee government is today. The government is in a position whereby elections must be held on the 26th. They must. Come what be, lazima, they must be held on 26th. So what that means, it means fighting the NASA loophole, or rather the loophole in the constitution or the loophole in the law, which NASA used to postpone the elections, because that's really what Raila did by withdrawing, yeah? Must be fought at all costs, so that in the end, elections must be held on the 26th. And that's why we are seeing situations whereby all the other candidates are desperately being called back. Come back, we have the elections, come back. Well, only a few weeks ago, the government was getting very irritated when people were saying, all the other candidates should be in the fresh election, because it's a fresh election, so everything should be repeated with all the candidates who took part in the election. The government was getting very irritated at that school of thought. Yeah, and in fact, this is what caused Eturo Court to go to court. Yeah, because he felt that his constitutional rights were being undermined. And it's very interesting because the court was part of the committee of experts. In fact, he was in charge of them, who wrote our constitution. So this is a guy who knows the constitution fairly well. Not fairly well, very well. But now suddenly the government is very interested. It is very keen to have the other people back. Why? So that even if Raila Odinga is not in the ballot, yes, the election will go on. But actually there's another game being played here. The whole idea is if you have all the other candidates back, yes, and you convince NASA that actually this election is going to go forward, yeah, then Raila and, well, that's the thinking of Jubilee. Raila and Kalonzo will have no option but to participate in the election, because after all, their names will still be on the ballot. Yes, they were withdrawn, but still the name is there, and there'll be some votes written next to their names. Yeah, even if they're only a handful of votes, because most NASA supporters will boycott the election. Yeah. Now, don't be fooled. Jubilee have got very smart lawyers on their side, and they fully know what the consequences of things are. Yeah, they fully know the law. They fully know what is happening. Yeah, and of course they're very much aware that if an election takes place without NASA people being in that election, nobody is going to look at that election as credible. They know that. But as a result of the earlier decisions, bad decisions which did not think through things, what option do they have? They don't have an option. Yeah, a government which is not credible to most people is better than nothing at all. That's what it has come to. Yeah, because obviously such an election will be very easy to overturn. Yeah, because already the way this election have been run, yeah, so far, even before we go any further, yeah, it has not been run in a constitutional manner. Yeah, let's just even look at it from a common sense point of view. Yeah, the IEBC has not included NASA in their decision making. Yeah, and these are major stakeholders. So what should have happened? Yeah, the IEBC should have called both NASA and Jubilee, and they'd have sat down and sorted out this thing and agreed that the election will run like this, like that. Yeah, but what has happened? Jubilee have not been interested in those discussions. A meeting is called, they send Duale, they send Mukomen, they send the deputy president, yeah, and yet the main principles are not there. What would have been very simple is for Uhuru Kenyatta to sit on one side, Raila Odinga to sit on the other side, Chebukati to sit in the middle, and they discuss. No wasikilizane. Very simple, yeah. But since that did not happen, this is where we find ourselves in. We find our country on the edge, yeah, on the edge of the abyss, yeah. We find our country very close to chaos, yeah. That's the truth. So this is what is most likely going to happen. We're going to have an election on 26th, okay? But in that election, NASA will not participate, okay? So what that means is that it will not be an election really. So at the end of the day, it will lack credibility. And then meanwhile, the NASA protests countrywide are picking up. Yeah, gosh, it's just a mess. Yeah, whichever way you look, it is just a mess. Yeah, and of course what that means is that whatever will happen on the 26th, because I'm very, very reluctant to call it an election, whatever will happen on the 26th will be so easy to annul. Yeah, let alone annul. It will be very difficult to recognize. Yeah, so what we'll have is we'll have a Jubilee government clinging on to power on a string. Yeah, people say I laugh at the wrong time, but I can't help laughing. Yeah, that's just me. Yeah, it'll be a government clinging to power on a string, and the weight which is put on that string is straining it to the limit. That is the situation we're going to have, and that is extremely dangerous for any country. Anything can happen. And so we come back to the situation I started with, making decisions that you do not think through. Okay, bad decisions in short. Okay, now let me just remind you, after the historic Supreme Court ruling that annulled the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta, the Supreme Court was given a few days, and then they came up with their ruling. I think it was on the 21st of September. I can't quite remember the date. Now, after that date, the press were talking to lawyer James Arango, and Arango warned that the country is in a dangerous situation, whereby they'd have to force a caretaker government. Yeah, and actually looking back, I can see what Arango was driving at. Yeah, I'm very sure by that time he had noticed that nothing much had changed at the IEBC. I'm sure he had noticed that really the IEBC is just a branch of Jubilee. Yes, and he knew that going into the elections, it was very difficult to have an election which would be acceptable, widely acceptable. Yeah, because you're going to elections with people and you don't want to talk to them. So how are they going to accept the results? Yeah, that's the situation. So now, what Arango was talking about, he was just warning of the possibilities and the consequences. And of course, nobody listened to him. The Jubilee, the powers that be, did not listen to him. And here we are. Bad decisions. We're here because of bad decisions. Now, are these decisions... Now, I do not think these decisions were made because the Jubilee side does not have capacity to take advice. I don't think these decisions were made because Jubilee do not have good advisors, qualified people. No. So why were these decisions made? I have no idea. Could these decisions have been made out of spite? You know, when you hate an opponent so much, yeah, the decisions, I told you the other day, when emotion comes in, it affects your judgment. Yeah, were all these decisions being made emotionally? Yeah, were all these decisions being made emotionally? Because I can't think of any other explanation. Yeah, but now the truth of the matter is that we're in a very, very dangerous situation as a country. Now, in another recording I'll do later, I will deal with the issue of caretaker government, because I've been receiving a lot of questions on that. Yeah, concerning the caretaker government and of course the status of the president, because Jubilee are insisting that a caretaker president will be in power until the day they hand over power. Yeah, but the truth of the matter is that a temporary president cannot be permanent, cannot be there forever. Yeah, and cannot be there for prolonged periods. The word temporary means a very short time. Yeah, anyway, you make sure you catch that other recording. But on this one, I think that's it for now. Let's keep on praying for our country. Let's hope for the best, but we're in a very, very bad situation. Until next time, this is Kshs Kumekucha.